All right, welcome back to Niaga. And you're going to take a look at creative industry and digital platform. With the digital economy of Asia projected to reach $600 billion America by 2030. And definitely want to see how all our digital platforms reshaping the way creative industry think. And moving forward, I welcome you. Our guest ready on the line is Ahmad Azuar Zainuddin, the CEO of Satu Kreatif. Again, I say thank you very much. Firstly, I'm going to start with the intersection of creativity and technology. We can see that one of the article discusses how creative technologies in Kuala Lumpur have transformed an abandoned colonial building into a multimedia storytelling hub. Could you elaborate on how such projects exemplify the fusion of creativity and technology in Southeast Asia?
Thank you so much, Nina, for having me. If we look at the project that I mentioned in the article with regards to technologies using projection mapping to interact with heritage building, this is actually a good example of how technology bring new light into the rich cultural heritage that we have in Kuala Lumpur, of course, across Southeast Asia. So on that, it draws in new audiences, especially among the youth who may not, I guess, on the day-to-day life, think about these heritage cultures that we have. So having this, it's reintroducing the old through adapting technologies that are, I guess, expanding and growing right now. Yeah.
And talking about cultural heritage and modern innovations, such as in Kuching, an indie game studio is developing an augmented reality mobile game inspired by traditional hand tattooing. How do initiatives like this balance the preservation of cultural heritage with the adoptions of modern technology?
Okay. This example in Kuching is an entrepreneur that we actually work with. So looking at them, what they did was adopting the tattoo making that is so rich especially in Sabah and Sarawak, and by introducing them in the game mode, they are, again, as I mentioned earlier, attract new audience to a heritage that may have been lost. A lot of culture actually would be lost if we do not practice them on a day-to-day basis. But looking at the modern day, how people interact with things, whether it is through social media, whether it's through games, whether it's through e-commerce, this is where it brings new life into cultural heritage that we have so much. And this is where the article discussed that, rather than copying or adapting, we have centuries-old tradition in Malaysia or across Southeast Asia that can be brought forward as a new product that we can bring to the world. So in this instance, that's one example, but we can also look at adoption of this through museums, through content like animations, and this shines light into what we already have, our true identity, sense of pride. And I think the project that we have, that these startups have in Sarawak and Kuching in particular, is a good example of how blending creativity and technology can bring new sense of pride, new revenue models, and I guess new audience as well in this context.
Let's take a look at our neighboring country. With Indonesia's creative economy contributed approximately $82 billion to its GDP in 2022 alone. What factors are driving such significant economic contributions from the creative sector in Southeast Asia?
Okay. Looking at Indonesia is really interesting because when we look at our neighbor, they have a deep appreciation of the culture. You look, for instance, it's not abnormal that people are wearing batik in a modern way, and it's very much a bottom-up approach. And through this, their sense of identity, this unity of, I guess, voice and culture is something that brands the country. So if people are looking at Indonesia, right, it's not just the old heritage, but also the new culture, the new creative economy is also at the forefront because they are in touch with their roots. I think in Malaysia, we are also doing something similar, but I guess it needs to be celebrated, it needs to be supported. And this is where the article looks into policy development, looking at education aspect of both the supply and demand side. And something that we can emulate is, of course, a lot of the industries, creative industries in Indonesia, but also something to draw upon Indonesia. And of course, in the region is we do have a shared cultural roots, right? I think if we look at Brunei, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, part of Thailand as well. And looking at this, looking at Southeast Asia as a huge market with 650 million population, growing middle class, young population, I think there's a lot of potential for the creative economy to come forward. And this needs to be nurtured and supported, because this is where our unfair advantage of the region that we have, because no one can copy Southeast Asia. We are Southeast Asia. And through supporting the technologies, the creative practitioners, we are able to bring this forward in a way where we have our own identity rather than copying the West or copying other parts of the world.
Leveraging in ASEAN's trend as if we come together and half of the population is young, probably we can say the youngsters have more creative ideas. And despite the growth as well, the challenges like undervaluations of the creative sector and skill gaps, what strategies could be implemented to address these systemic issues and support and boost creators in the digital age?
I think looking at this, there need to be more attention in supporting the creative practitioner beyond just, for example, a narrow angle of tourism. So looking at the creative sector, it blends very well with technology, it blends very well with culture. And I think on this front, there needs to be more engagement, more understanding from the creative practitioner side, from the technology side, from the policymakers, from the support systems, from the universities. And these, I think, would enable us to have a frank view of two-way view as well of how we can develop the sector. That's one of them. Of course, the other part is a lot of education needs to happen. We need to do a lot of campaigns, for instance, on awareness, on promoting the culture, looking at it beyond the narrow lens, but celebrating how creativity is key to innovation. Creativity is key, for instance, for even we look at e-commerce, look at branding, look at promoting our product. And this stems from our strong roots, from our identity. We look at countries like Korea, for instance. They have been very successful in a very short period of time. Why? Because they acknowledge the importance of creativity within the broader economy of the country.
And we're going to pull in by saying support factor. Sometimes we need to put on the line is the policy. And many creators lack the legal literacy to protect their work. What measures can be taken to improve intellectual property right awareness and enforcement among creatives? Because we're saying we're in a digital era, so probably awareness, can we contribute through digital as well?
Yeah, I love that, Nina, because looking at this, a lot of policies needs to be simplified, needs to be translated. So looking at this, we can't be sitting high and mighty, and this is how it is. You have to comply. We are the gatekeepers. But really listening to how we can make this simpler. Can we adopt ways where this legal approach can be simpler? There are a lot of technologies that are emerging, such as AI and all that, that perhaps can be adopted, but taking a more, how do I put this, human lens, human-centered approach, because what we're looking at is not competing or gatekeepers or us against them, but we are actually looking at promoting a culture which is ours to begin with, right? And promoting them, whether it is local, whether it's the example that we had in Kuching or in Malaysia or ASEAN. I think we should look at it as we are in a broader context, one people, right? And it deserves attention, and we should not just focus on one sector. We look at a lot of countries, again, the UK, for instance, the creative economy is one of the major sector there, right? Why can't the same be in Malaysia? But it starts, of course, bottom up, human-centered. Really, a lot of listening needs to happen in order for us to, I guess, overcome challenges such as understanding legal framework, looking at cross borders, and so on.
And we hope for the creative platform and also Southeast Asia can leverage on this strength and this benefit, so all of us can come together and probably create a better future, digital future with creativity as a catalyst. Again, I say thank you very much to our guest, Ahmad Azuar Zainuddin, the CEO of Satu Kreatif, and definitely all of our discussion here will be featured in astrawani.com.